and truth.
All right, we're back again.
Yeah.
I really like that hat, Kyle.
Talking about truth. We talked about it. We started last podcast with truth, literally saying like truth. Yeah. Talk about it.
But we went to the anti-truth. We just forgot the anti. That's what we were talking about.
Well, we were talking about, I guess, the delineation between lying and, what is the anti? What's it? We never even brought up the phrase anti-truth, which is a real thing. Different. I think that's different than even lying to an extent. I think anti-truth falls under the umbrella of lying, but I think there's things that are considered lying that aren't necessarily anti-truths.
So, anti-truth would be a non-truth, which would be a lie.
It's a great explanation.
Is that right? What is a lie? It's not the truth.
So, just out of curiosity, this is one thing we didn't talk about last time. Mm-hmm. I think it was last podcast was taken before its time. But I think so. What about we're gonna, and pun intended, folks, but we're gonna be splitting hairs here. But what about like toupees or wigs? Right? If somebody's
living
bald,
a lie,
if somebody's bald and they're wearing a toupee, is it lying? You know what I mean? Like, is it lying to other people around them in society that like, hey, I have hair? That's the message that you're sending without actually using words.
For your head.
Can you lie without using words?
For sure.
So what's it considered if, let's say, there's two individuals, recording a podcast, and one goes to change his shirt to make it seem like it's a different day?
Because it is a different day. The best part is he's the same one that's going to do the editing, so just cut it out.
Okay.
They'll never know.
Oh, I will let them know for sure.
Changing all the passwords.
Yeah.
You'll never have access now.
So, honestly, though, and again, pun intended, but splitting, semantics, if you will.
I think there's an element of living.
Can you lie without words?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're giving false advertising. So the concept of being able to say like, if I'm wearing shoes that have like extra height, and then people are like, wow, maybe like somebody's like, oh, wow, man, that person's really tall, but it's not real. It's me creating a scenario that makes me seem wrong? Tall.
Is that a sin?
I think it's not like I don't know if it's an active sin, because I don't know if there's the aspect of deception. So like, I'm not trying to, cause.
I'm not trying to deceive you.
No, I guess that's
I just want you to
true.
think that I'm taller than I really am.
Yeah, I guess as I was speaking, I was like, actually, that's all that is deception.
I'm not trying to deceive you. I'm just trying to make you think it's a different day by switching shirts.
Yeah. You're just going to have it so many times, and I'm just going to have a black transition over that time. It's just like over and over again. Anyway, it is a different day. Nobody knows because
you leave me high and dry. Okay, so I got to fight back how I can. Okay. And I'm playing by the rules. I'm just talking about the topic that,
That's
of
true.
Discussion right now.
Well done. Touche. All right. So coming back to the concept, I think that there's an element of, I don't know if it's, I would say deception is to a certain extent, but like everyone does that. When you act like when you're dating,
that's never been an argument for something being right.
No, I know. I'm saying like, all right, so the concept of dating, when you're extra nice, you're doing extra nice things, it's actually not you really, because once that little oxytocin wears off, you then go back to how you normally act. But in the beginning, you're like, oh, so sweet, so doing extra things and stuff like that. And that plateau.
Is that a lie, or is that you just being your best self?
So here's the thing. Maybe that's true for my height. That's my best version of me.
No, that version of you has never existed.
It has, with the ability for
you can make that.
enhancements.
If you wanted to use that argument, then you should have used the toupee example, because then at one point I had hair.
I did. Oh, true.
You know?
Very true.
So
All
that's
right,
the
okay.
best. That's
So
the best version of myself.
Is that a bad thing to try to be the best version of yourself?
Well, okay, that's a loaded question.
So here's the thing. I would say that I think it is, whether it's sinful or not, I don't know. I wouldn't think it would be, but
In the
I'm
example
not
of
100%
dating,
sure.
I don't think it's wrong, as long as you're not
False
the total
advertising.
opposite. Yeah, as long as you're not like a total D-bag and you're just, for men trying to, get in a girl's pants or something like that, and you're like, yeah, I totally love you and blah blah blah. Then you get in her pants and then you split. Or the real you comes out, what, like, that's not okay. But if I'm just being extra polite and I'm, holding the door open and like doing whatever, if I'm being extra polite, is that something that I would do? Like, that's my personality, right? It's my personality.
Why don't you keep it up then?
Well, that's exactly kind of what I was eventually going to get at.
But
is you should strive for that. But if that's really you, if you can really be that and be polite, and you really are doing these things because you want to be polite to this girl, because you want to get to know her and then hopefully, get married and have kids and yada, yada. And you're doing it all for the right intentions and everything, that's really you. You're just it's like a highlight reel. You know what I mean? Like you're showing the highlight reel. It's like Facebook or Instagram or whatever. There's a lot of deception in that, but I would say the average person, I would consider their highlight reel. There's not deception there. It's just they're only capturing their happiest moments and throwing it up. So to the example of the date, going on a first date or something, you're capturing your politest moments, your most attractive moments, I guess, and throwing it all up all at one time. And hey, look at me. Hey, I'm a gentleman, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I think in that example, let's say in that comparison. So the first date, and as long as it's genuine and like the average person on social media, I don't think those are wrong. You're showcasing your highlight reel essentially. But the D-bag who is using a girl and putting on a front, to get in her pants, and the influencer, the Instagram influencer, whatever, that they're using Photoshop and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're like actively going out of their way to, essentially put out a false product on Instagram, or whatever. That's wrong. That's a lie.
Yeah. So that part I think is, I would definitely agree with that. The interesting part is being able to kind of see the aspect that I think is also a problem, is that you are not revealing the truth of where you're at. So that's the only issue, because there's a lot of really unhealthy dysfunction that comes from that social media concept of only doing your highlight reels, because it makes it seem that that things are a lot better than what they really are. That's where I think the toupee, the extra height, or all these different things, is that you are to a certain extent saying that me as I am is not good enough, and that I want to be different than what it is. Like my messiness, the fact that my hair's thinning. So what about the first date example? So that's a part where that's more of a chemical aspect. where like you literally are being forced for the act of bonding. You're chemically being producing like all of this oxytocin that's like making you obsess about this person, which is making you want to connect with them, which is making you really focus on being polite, wanting them to like you, which then does the bonding part. Once the bonding part's over, then that drops down back to normal levels, and then you're just already bonded, so you don't need that anymore. So there's an element where, like, to a certain extent, that's outside of your control when you're in that hormonal milieu. And so I think that's a part where there's a little bit of a difference with that, honeymoon phase concept that's actually happening to you versus you being like, I'm going to deceive you. It's really like your bodies are like putting you into a part of saying like, make them like you. And then, that's why a lot of times marriages fail, is because they do the bonding part, the oxytocin element. And then when that plummets, they're like, oh, shoot, I don't actually like you very much. And we don't actually work well together. And we don't, all these different things, because they didn't actually try to do real bonding. They were just on the oxytocin high. And so
yeah, but
I would say it's a little bit different.
I mean, you can't absolve like responsibility in the failed marriage because, well, you didn't really have control because of the, hormones and the chemicals in your body.
I'm just saying a lot of people should not make those decisions in those spaces, because in reality, you're not looking at the reality of what decades are going to look like. You're looking at what like your super intense hormonal experiences. Like you should wait. You shouldn't be getting married after like 2 months of like, oh, this is great. Like nothing bad's gone wrong.
My parents
like,
got married like 3 months to the day after they met.
They
not
were
even
old.
Just dating.
They were older and wiser.
My dad was 30 years old when I was born.
He's much how when I was dumb born. We were. Oh, when you were born? When we got married.
Yeah, I was 21.
Dumb. Yeah. Super dumb. Yeah. I remember.
I don't think it was really a honeymoon phase though.
For what? Them?
If I'm being honest. I mean, we talked about this our very first podcast. We were giant POSs of human beings. Like when we first met,
it was our attractiveness. We had really good hair then. That's why. Yeah, that's what brought them in.
Sure. Yeah. Totally. I mean, the hair that I have now looks like the hair that I had at my wedding. Almost.
No, you had
more
just
thicker. Right
yeah, you did.
It was buzzed.
I forgot we were buzzed at that time. I forgot.
Yeah, I didn't rock like the side part or anything like that until like the car business, I think.
What a fool. You waited until you were losing your hair to rock hair.
I didn't start losing my hair when I started the car business.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was a little bit after. Anyways, we're digressing.
Anyway.
The point being is that there are many aspects and many forms of lying. And in reality, we do a lot of it.
But it's like where, I mean,
what is wrong and what is right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's what this is. So supposed to be is a place to have these types of discussions of let's put it out.
What does making yourself be taller or have hair? What does it do?
Well, I'm in agreement. I think that's a lie. That's considered a lie. I think the social media thing again, like. You said it causes all sorts of mental issues and everything. Now, I don't think
depression, anxiety.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is
those things.
What I'm getting at is I agree with all of that, and I think it primarily happens. Those mental issues and everything happen to people while looking at other people's highlight reels. Now, I think it can also happen the reverse. I think you can look at your own highlight reel on Facebook and, scroll through your own Facebook and look at your own highlight reel and think things are better than they really are. So, I mean, it goes both ways, but just having a social media account and posting pictures, staying connected with old friends and that sort of thing. Like, just because you're posting your highlight reel, I don't think that's inherently a lie or wrong or anything like that. I think it's then what you do with your own highlight reel or with other people's. And you can't control what other people do. You know, if like someone's looking at your Facebook and be like, man, they have it all together and their life is perfect. And why can't mine be like that? You know, they start to develop. Like, where do you draw the line on?
I would say
that?
The communication of that would be like the difference. If I'm putting all that up and saying like my life's perfect, my life's so wonderful, and that's all I'm focusing on is the good stuff, and I'm not giving to light the fact that I'm also struggling and stuff like that. Like, there's an element where it's like I'm portraying perfection, which is a lie.
Yeah.
So like I would say that like there's an element where that would be problematic. But yeah, just posting your stuff, no problem with that. That's not a bad thing. And but like being obsessed with it becomes an issue. And that's more of like a different problem. But I think there's an element where I think lying is ironically more encompassing than what we often think it is.
Oh, for sure.
There's so much to lying that it's just like omitting truth, just not fully giving everything, or, you know, again, trying to pad it with good things. So there's this really great technique where you say like a really good thing and then a hard truth and then a really good thing. Yeah. Where it's like we just like try to slip it in so that people don't notice it or it's not that big a deal. In reality, it needs to give weight. That's a big thing that they tell you in like counseling.
Well, I think it depends on the situation.
Do that part.
I mean, in counseling, obviously, you know, you want your hard truths to, you know, have weight and, you know, process and stuff. I think there is a time and place to use that type of, you know, hard truth compliment type of deal, or, you know, that sandwich technique. I think it just depends. You know what I mean? Like,
Kyle,
what is the truth?
Awesome tattoos. You're bald, and I really love your beard.
Two of those things. One of those things is correct. The other two are lies. I don't have awesome tattoos. You don't like my beard, and I am bald. So.
First of
all, a bad example.
First of all,
it's not a sandwich between a lie, a hard truth, and a lie.
No, I do like your tattoos, and you are bald.
It should be an easy. It should be an easy truth. Easy truth, hard truth, easy truth.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So you have tattoos. You're bald.
Yes,
and you have a beard.
I have a beard. Yeah, perfect. Perfect execution.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's a part where you are absolutely right. There is definitely a time and place to have that part.
I mean, I think from your counselor, absolutely not. I should say absolutely not. But I don't want to be an absolutist.
Where I do that.
I don't want to be an absolutist. That's one thing I'm working on myself. You know, and you could probably lump this under the umbrella of truth and lies and whatever, but where the use of never and just being an absolutist, like I'll never do that. Okay, well, you've got no clue what the future has in store for you, and so saying the word, saying I'll never do that in your mind, sure, that's how you feel right now, but you may very well do that exact thing. Yeah.
Where you're things.
The only thing I hold true to that is I will never eat McDonald's again. I will continue to be an absolutist on that.
I can't wait. You're just going to be like immobilized somehow, some way.
I will starve to death.
Nope. No. You're going to be like paralyzed. And you're going to be there, and I'm just going to start feeding you McDonald's French fries.
I'm going to just stick my tongue. I'm going to stick my tongue like this. And you're not going to.
I'm going to make it. You can absolutely. No. Here's the thing: is like I'm absolutely not going to stop.
Recorded proof. If I become paralyzed, it's because K-Fry paralyzed me so he could force feed me McDonald's.
Yes, that's my whole goal now.
Yep, I knew it.
You're going to say you're going to be an absolutist. I'll prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
As any good friend would.
Just
trying to help you. Nope.
Trying to help me be wrong. I'm just trying to help you be wrong. As any good friend would do.
Also, that is the dumbest thing to be an absolutist on. Out of all the things that you could be, like, I'm absolutely never going to cheat on my wife, or I'm absolutely going to be a follower of Christ, or you're like, I'm absolutely
never going to eat McDonald's again. Those things are true, but
they're not absolutes.
The question is, where do you define cheating? I'll snap.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, what about your belief in God? That we started.
What about your belief in God?
Well, what do you mean? What is your definition of belief, and what is your definition of God?
We're splitting hairs all over the place.
I'm pulling a Jordan Peterson here.
Oh, wow. Now I see why everybody's so frustrated with him.
That was always his answer. People would say, asking me, do you believe in God? Well, and his answer was always, I live as though God exists, because he doesn't know your definition of belief or your definition of God, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
it's a different way. All right. So concept cheating. Of truth.
You know what I mean?
Oh, cheating. Well, we're still going with that tangent.
Well, what is considered cheating? Is pornography considered cheating? Is looking at another girl and being like, oh, she's hot.
Yeah,
is that considered cheating?
Lust is technically that aspect.
Well, just because I look at another girl and think she's very attractive doesn't mean I'm lusting after her. If I stare and drool over her, you know what I mean? Then, then I'm lusting.
I'm just waiting for you to be old.
Or I had a stroke.
I don't know. Just staring at a woman making you horribly uncomfortable. That's not okay. All right.
Well, what if I had a stroke?
Oh, well, then that's fine.
I either have lust in my heart or I'm having a stroke.
So I would say that if you're lusting, then yes, it would be an act of cheating.
Well, we both know we're going to air our dirty laundry here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a recovering porn addict, and that's what I call it, recovering, because it's a forever struggle.
Always.
If you're not vigilant, it will always creep up on you.
Unfortunately, that is true. And so it's this part to be able to recognize that, yes, that would still be considered cheating because of the fact that there's an aspect of lust in it.
All because there's a difference between you tried to say that I needed to be absolutist about something else. That's why we're talking about this, right? Just to remind you.
I know. I tried to make it, a little shock factor. It just never goes my way. It just never goes my way. I can't have anything good, Kyle.
So I'm going to paralyze you and force feed you McDonald's.
I was going more for the second one, which was, can you not have belief in God? And then you had to go Jordan Peterson on that one. Well, it's like nothing. You can be only the McDonald's thing. That's the only thing you don't Jordan Peterson yourself from.
What he says is, if you truly believe that the Judeo-Christian God exists, the creator of the universe, you would never do anything wrong. But we do. We are backsliding serpents, and
that's true.
We
as
we
a concept
sin.
Of it's the aspect of, like, in that space we don't believe because we don't have the concept of the fear of the Lord in that time. Which, again, there's definitely truth to that.
Yes, my statement stands.
First of all, if you're only an absolutist,
to be absolutist.
I'm going to make this happen. This is going to happen. I'm going to. This is my life goal.
I love debating, though, like discussions.
Yes. So
I
great.
can defend my statement of only being an absolutist of, eating McDonald's. Never eating McDonald's again.
I'm going to make this my life's work. This is going to be the thing. When I'm 90 years old and you finally stroked to the point where you can't do it. Nope.
God willing,
I'm going to keep you alive. This is my whole part. I'm going to keep you alive, even robotically, so I can just feed you one
Now, is that a lie? Are you actually going to try that?
I am going to.
Okay.
I absolutely
All right, back on track.
will.
Back on
track.
track.
All right, come on. All right. So truth. So the concept of the lie
Aquitas
is
veritas.
the aspect of, trying to deny or, divert the truth. How do we discern what is true? Because again, there's this concept of absolute truth. Okay.
God's holy word.
All right. So what version? What's canon?
The Hebrew.
That's the only original text. So only 4 books.
And Greek.
And so technically the additional books of the Apocrypha are also in Greek.
Yeah.
So does those count?
But those have not been... The reason why the Apocrypha was originally left out of the Christian Bible, the Protestant Bible, because I think the books of the Apocrypha are still in like the Catholic Bible, correct?
Not all of them. So there's like Thomas, like there's different ones. There's like a bunch of them. It's not just like they've got like Second Esther. They've got like a few different ones.
There's a bunch, but
yeah,
I guess I don't know how many. But
yeah, there's some that aren't in any Bible. They're just like a book.
Why not? Why?
Because they weren't.
Why were they left out?
By the
they weren't shoved
what's it
into
called?
A giant metal tube and plunged with gunpowder and cannon. Yeah.
Cannoned.
Oh, I'm a
well
dad,
done.
But I'm
such a good dad joke.
Oh, man. Nailed it.
So yeah, so like there's the group of men that decided what was in the Bible and what was not.
Ugh, patriarchy. Ugh. Can't stand you men.
Yeah.
Just all you white men deciding.
First of all, I don't know that all of them were white at the time. But so like the concept of the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is referenced in the Bible, but is not in the Bible.
Yeah.
As a biblical text, but it's not in the Bible.
Yeah.
But it's referenced
by
someone from the Bible in the aspect of saying, because you know the Book of Enoch, you know that these things are true.
Well, back to my point. So those books were left out due to specific, inaccuracies or whatever, or certain things,
contradictions.
Yeah, that have not been, that have proven themselves to be less than reliable. How about that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they kind of proved themselves not to be unfallible, God's holy word.
Yeah.
So that's why I say the Bible, and I'm not going to say in every translation, but the original text books of the Bible that we know as the Christian Bible, or Jews believe that the Torah is the only one that's divinely inspired, right? Those first 5 books of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that it's different for everybody, but I would say that's where truth is found.
That's
in God's. How about this?
Obviously.
How about this? God's word, God's holy word, divinely inspired word. That's where truth is found.
All right. So I agree.
So I won't put a name on it.
Where else is truth found? Because obviously God's holy word doesn't hold everything.
No, it does.
Math doesn't hold everything.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have like neuroscience. It doesn't have aspects is that still truth?
It talks about it.
Doesn't have aspects of
the
code
amygdala
on these things. So how do you discern what's
talks
true
about AI and
outside of these things? How do you discern
Python.
What's true outside of the Bible?
I run it through the lens of the Bible. You use the Bible as a lens, and God's truth, and certain things I remain agnostic on because I don't know, because I can't determine, truth or whatever about certain things. So I don't know. I feel like we've showcased that quite well on most of our podcasts. End result is, well, that was a good discussion. I've got no clue.
It's always my favorite.
I don't know if there were, I shouldn't say nefarious activities. If there were certain inside nefarious activities during 9/11, I'm going to throw that out there. Well, There's a rabbit hole for you.
Wow. Yeah, great. I think we're sticking with the truth that we can define
it's
now.
It's just, but that's what I'm saying. It's just an example of 9/11 happened.
We don't have the ability to
a terrorist attack. Yeah, it was. But so I remain agnostic.
Okay. So
what about the moon landing? Did we land on the moon?
I'm talking about things that we have decided is actual truth, like outside of the Bible. Concept of electricity, or like the aspect of like math. Math is true.
Observational science, but that's mathematics. Yeah. I mean,
okay,
math is in the Bible.
I'm saying yes. I'm
all
saying
the rules of math. It doesn't list out Newton's.
That's my point. That's my point. How do you distinguish what is true outside of the Bible? Then,
well, there's observational science, obviously.
So all observational science is true.
See, that's a loaded question. It's a loaded question.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So this is the part. How do you distinguish the difference?
Normally, I would feel confident enough to say yes, but then you could be like, well, what about people with certain mental instabilities, or maybe they're on drugs and hallucinogens, and they're observing this, that, and the other, and that's not is that true? So I get it, but you can determine that gravity exists because of its effects on the world around you, and what goes up must come down to an extent
in this on this planet,
in this reality. But yeah, so for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Like there are truths and laws in this world that God has created into the world. During creation, he has, using his spoken word and using his word, created these truths and these laws into creation. So, if you have that foundation in Christianity and all truth is God's truth, period. The more truth you know, the more you know God.
Yeah. So
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light.
So that becomes a part where how do you consume the massive amount of information and distinguish truth?
You can't.
You can't.
No.
So you're just screwed.
How can you comprehend the vastness of God? You can't. So you're just screwed. It's the same question, right? How can you consume the vast amount of truth in the world? How can you, absorb it, or consume it and process it? You can't. It's impossible. It's the same thing as trying to understand the entirety of God.
So, I always go with the aspect of morality, spirituality, emotional health, all of those things can be filtered through the Bible and get truth.
Yeah.
Aspect of laws can be, obviously we build tons of our laws off of the biblical, the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, whether people like it or not, get over it.
Yeah. It's just
you live in Western civilization, which if you enjoy life, I shouldn't say that. If you enjoy Western civilization, you live in Western civilization, it is only there. You only have the ability to hate Western civilization because of the foundational truths that it was built on, Christianity. It's just, there's no way around it. Western civilization is built on Christianity. And what do they say? The tale of two cities, Athens and Jerusalem.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is being able to recognize that, the foundation is good. What people did with it, not so good. Yeah. And I think that's an important part that even Gandhi recognized. He's like, I love your Christ. I don't really like your Christians, because they are very different than Christ. And so it's the concept of being able to say, just because that these Western civilizations have not done good things, doesn't mean that the foundation that was built upon is bad. And that's an important, I think it's a good distinction, because a lot of times people join those together and are like, Christianity is bad, Christ must be bad. It's like, no, Christianity or Christians may suck. Christ followers may suck in different spaces, but it does not actually speak to anything of Christ. It just means that they suck.
Every other human being on the face of this earth.
Yes. Yes. But I think it's an aspect where, like, if you're, the concept of trying to always tell the truth, where, again, that distinction that we kind of made last time, where it doesn't cause horrible harm to others, and isn't going to put them into jeopardy. There's this element where, one of the things that, we kind of brought him up, but Jordan Peterson talks about, he's like, that is living in reality. And when you live in reality, you have the most ability to engage with it. And that's where you're going to be most impactful. So that's a lot of what I deal with when I'm working with people who are suffering from trauma, is being able to say, we need to deal with reality, with what really happened, as awful as it is, because once we're able to, we can engage with it fully. We can then actually process it and bring it into healthier spaces, heal that part to a certain extent by fully engaging with it, with that reality. And so that's the concept of the truth will set you free within trauma concepts is absolutely true. It's the ability to press into that awful, horrible space, and then be able to bring the second part, which is most important, the aspect of love. And that's where I think the concept of Bonhoeffer came into, is he said, the aspect of truth without love is dead. It's, it's a resounding gong. It's these things where it's like the aspect of truth coupled with love can do profound things. So like my love, his love for the Jewish people and for all the people, not just the Jews, but all the people that Hitler was doing, is what caused him to act and try to kill him. It was the love part. Same concept of the reason why God has wrath towards those who like lead his people astray, or like lead his little ones astray. It's a concept that it's a love part. And so it's got to be a balance between the two. And I think that's an important part for us to recognize, that, of course, truth is good, but talking about traumatic things with people who've gone through trauma without love and empathy and compassion, and that being the foundation you're building off of, will just re-traumatize them. But if you do it in a very specific, healthy way, it leads to healing. So it's a beautiful representation that truth, of course, is a good thing, but truth can also be a very bad thing if you don't have that aspect of love. Yeah. So truth in and of itself is not always good.
Yeah, truth, like you just said, truth not accompanied by love is not always a good thing. But I would say truth can always be a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, truth is always a good thing as long as it's accompanied by love. Like, truth is good, but it can be very detrimental and bad depending on what space it is. Like, that's one of the things that with people who have severe addictions that, cause people significant harm, they are supposed to make amends, but if their amends would cause more harm than good within that person's life, then they are not supposed to make amends, and they have to make amends in different ways of how to process through. Because if it'll re-traumatize the innocent person that they've harmed, then in reality that truth is not helpful.
And that's on the innocent person, and then you need to get it together. I'm trying to say sorry here, trying to make amends.
I'm trying to, I'm going to make this about me, even though I was the one who traumatized you.
I'm sorry I stole your dog and sold it for crack, and that traumatized you. I tried to use a very PG example there.
Yeah, exactly. That was it was an intense drug with a very non-intense act. But
stealing someone's dog, that's not intense. I steal someone's dog to sell them for crack.
A lot of the things that I've heard.
For sure. Yeah.
But, again, I think that's an important part. And I think that really speaks to what you were getting at with the aspect of like not lying to your children and dealing with their emotional distress, their frustration, is being able to say like, I'm going to love you through this truth that I have to give you, which is I'll be patient. I'll be with you in that part. And again, to mine of punting that responsibility and being like,
I was
it's not there.
To put you on the spot. So there was a time
I always love it.
that you told me that it's a parent's job to shelter their children from trauma. You know, up to a point, but like I think you had said, like an age. You know, that was the point. Was a specific age range, and so, and it was in reference to me trying to figure out how to keep my kid in his room. I think nap time, or I think that instance was for bedtime in particular.
Yeah.
And at the time, I took the easy route, right? You know, I locked the door, or put like those, you know, little child-proof doorknob things on. And that was like his punishment, right? If you keep coming out of your room, then we're going to put this on. And then, you know, and in hindsight, that was not the best decision. You know, there were other decisions that other routes that we should have gone. But your argument, that you had brought up was, you know, obviously that can cause trauma and separating. And then you had brought up that point of protecting your kids from trauma. So my question to you is, where I'm putting you on the spot, is what is worse than the potential trauma that I could have caused my child by putting that doorknob, you know, child lock thing on there, or the potential trauma that you could cause by letting making your kids believe in Santa Claus and then them finding out later on?
So
what's worse?
There's an element where I would say that one is a potential, one is more a definitive, like an aspect of like me, that my kid could be like me, and like I didn't give two craps. I was just like, oh, okay, cool, move on. But in that space, well, and it also depends on like the aspect of like the age. You know, your grandpa breaking it at 2 years old. Like, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Like, so there's an element there where I think it's an aspect of distress. So again, you know,
but you also, I don't think you have a choice in how your kid reacts to it. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
If you wait till your kid's 13 and, you know, like, Santa doesn't exist, it could still shatter their reality. You know what I mean? Like,
so there's a part where, again, it's this aspect of what we distinguish as traumatizing. So like the element of there's specific parts within the brain that is like going to react specifically to things. So like the aspect of, we kind of throw around specifically kind of falling off of our, or coming off of our words and more words podcasts. We kind of use traumatizing in a very loose term where we just kind of throw around like, oh, I was traumatized because of this. Like, were you really? Because traumatizing would be like you would have nightmares about it. Like you would end up having like extremely distressful experiences where like being trapped, being locked out, feeling disconnected from a caregiver. Those are actually built-in systems that can create that part. Your belief in Santa Claus or not, we kind of throw around like, oh, I was traumatized.
Well, because I mean, if you're going to compare the two, you got to actually compare the two, because the throwing around I was traumatized because, you know, I found out Santa didn't exist, that I think is very surface level. Where if you're going to look at, or if you're going to compare the two, it's their caregiver. Right. The only reason that they believe Santa exists is because you told them Santa existed, not because they made up Santa, you know, whatever, and you just went along with it, but you told them. So the person that they have known their entire lives to be reliable and constant and, you know, dependable and everything, now they find out that an entire entity that was, reoccurring in their life year after year. And they, kids are told to be good because Santa's got a list and he's checking it twice. Like, you know what I mean? And like
perfect manipulation.
So then they find out. Yeah, exactly. Then they find out that person that they've grown to, know, love, and depend on has been manipulating them, has been like, oh, you just lied about the whole list thing, so I would behave and be good for you. And there's manipulation. And then you just totally made Santa Claus up. So, I mean, and I'm not in the field, you know what I mean? So like, I haven't studied child psychology or anything like that. But I would imagine that that's got to be on at least near the same level of severity of potential trauma. Obviously, the kid could be like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of knew that and I kind of figured it out on my own and like, whatever type of deal. Or it could go horribly wrong. In my kid's, instance with me throwing now maybe there's longer lasting effects that I am not aware of at the current moment, but he has not, to my knowledge, had like nightmares or anything like that. He's never had I don't know what potential issues could come up, for me closing him off from us type of deal. But like, we always do a good job of letting him, or we try to, do a good job of letting him know, like, we love you. And even through punishment, and especially after the punishment's over and he's calmed down, things have calmed down, then, daddy loves you and blah, blah, blah. So, and granted, in my example of me doing this with Atlas, I'm talking about how, daddy loves you and, caring and blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to show the extremes of both, right? Like, obviously I could lock my kid in a closet for his entire childhood and it's the same thing, right? I'm just locking him in a room, blah, 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 as opposed to what I did. Or, with Santa Claus. So I'm just trying to compare the two fully, like, both extremes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I would think in my limited brain, I would think that the potential for trauma is, or level of severity of potential trauma out of the situations could be the same, or it, could be shifted. A kid could be legitimately traumatized from their belief in Santa Claus and then finding out that he's not real. They could be more traumatized from that than one or two instances of their parents, kind of locking them in their room sort of thing. Or, I mean, the scales could easily and probably more likely be tipped in the opposite direction. But I'm just saying you can't rule out the other situation.
There's a couple of things that I think is important is to recognize that we have a lot more proof for one than the other. Tons of people have had, I don't see many clients that come in and are like, Santa Claus was ruined.
Well, long-lasting trauma, obviously.
But I have had people who have had, the aspects of I've been locked in a closet. Now, again, I will agree with you. And like a room, like separated from parents. Them. Yes, there's a difference. And I will say that the way you did it, even with the concept of him like trying to get out of the crib, you stayed for way longer than you had to, of being able to say like, all right, I'm going to help you, buddy. Like I'm going to help you through it.
Oh,
that's not a concept. Yeah, that's not a concept of you doing it in a way that's negative. But there's an aspect where really sensitive children can be impacted. Same thing for the Santa Claus thing.
Yeah.
So again, I would say that the only reason why is this: most people who learn about Santa Claus are much older. They're able to process verbally a lot more and understand timelines and different things like that, and understand the concept of like the reason why I was able to quickly move out of it is because I saw the positive impact for my younger siblings. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense why you would do that. Like, they love that. I remember me enjoying that. Like, that makes sense. That was a really fun time to believe in that part, and it was really exciting. So, like, I was able to comprehend and process that very well with my dad. Versus, like, really young children, it's not that they can't process. Of course, they're very intelligent kids. Or kids are very smart, but it's the aspect of that their developmental processing ability is at a different stage, which can be more difficult for them to process through that part. Ironically, not for you, because you are a very wise 2-year-old and were able to just be like, I knew that wasn't real.
Well, I was 2. I probably, didn't
you
even
probably
know what was
were in the
going
midst
on.
of being like, what? But it stuck with you. So there you go.
Who's Santa again?
Santa? Yeah. I never believed him anyway.
Well, it didn't stick with me. I don't remember it at all. I just know from my parents' recollection.
It did stick with you because you are now your grandpa. That's what you are. You are currently your grandfather. I mean, so you're like, if I could become anything,
if I could become my grandfather, then
by the way, was he the one that was the scooter dude? Are we talking about Scooter Man?
Yeah,
Green Thumb.
Yeah,
I did like him a lot.
Yeah,
murdered
I don't know of a single person that
all the woodland creatures, drowned
the critters. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a whole one just on your grandpa because I retell those stories.
That's my biggest
all the time.
One of my biggest regrets in my entire life is not getting to know my grandpa like his younger years while he was still alive. I don't know. I mean, we'd have great conversations, especially as I got older, and we talk about all sorts of stuff and whatever. But never, I don't know. I just never thought to inquire about his childhood. And then after he died, and we're going through old photo albums and like seeing pictures of him as a kid, I'm like, dude, my grandpa was like so interesting, so cool, and like did all sorts of, which I knew he was anyway. But we could easily have multiple podcasts on that.
I know. Those are some, like, I literally repeated your stories about your grandpa to other people because they were
specifically
so
drowning with the critters in the pond,
exactly,
and traumatizing his grandson.
It's my favorite.
Handing me his .22 revolver, which I now own. By the way, he gave it to me.
I remember you shot a squirrel in your backyard.
No,
when you were in the what's it called?
No. I did that. That was
a different
gun
22?
from my grandpa. Yeah, it's a .22 rifle that my dad got from my grandpa, and then I got from my dad. Okay. But the revolver, he handed it to me one time when I was in like 5th grade or 4th grade. I was helping him in the summer one time, and they had stray cats living out in the middle of nowhere. But cats were out in the woods, and a cat like scurried into the driveway, and it was just like in the middle of the driveway, and he like handed me his pistol. He's like, "Shoot that dang thing." And I'm like, the cats are pets. I don't want to. Just remember like lifting it up, and then I didn't pull the trigger in time because I didn't want to, and then the cat scurried off, and I handed it back, and he was all pissed. But
I just love it.
Talking about such childhood trauma.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, anyways, the truth is. Good luck on figuring out what it is. But if you want a good place to start, go to the Bible.
Yeah, in your math book.
And observational science, except for some things. There are people
that say that mathematics is the language of God. Because it is.
Those are people who really like
numbers
mathematics.
Don't lie. Well, numbers don't lie.
That's true. They don't. Except for when you start putting like letters in, and then they start making weird things happen.
No. Still don't lie.
Still weird.
Mathematical equations, man.
And then like quantum physics, where like it's kind of weird. It just gets
some of that starts
hairy.
to get into imaginary numbers, but some of that
string theory. Like there's a lot of stuff that starts to get like kind of interesting and weird. But,
Santa Claus multiplied by I.
Yeah,
I guess that makes him real. Full circle, folks. This is what you came here to see.
Full circle. Yeah. You're welcome. But truth,
are you not entertained?
You should seek it out. Go and find it.
Yeah. And don't teach your kids to believe in Santa Claus because you'll traumatize them for the rest of their life.
Also, don't tell them at 2 years old that it's not. While you're also
and that is one thing. Not to prolong this. Not to prolong this, but there is. Was thinking about like if you talk to your kid, you tell your kid at 13 that Santa's not real. Okay, they're old enough to process, but you don't always get to determine when your child finds out when Santa's not real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If they go to school and a kid tells them, like my son, and tells them that their parents are lying to them, and they're not at that age where they can process that properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you just
the reason I'm bringing it back up is because you really didn't ever answer my question about
which one's worse.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I'm
I'd
trying
say
to take what you told me
is worse. I would say.
Well, because you're on the opposite end of that situation. I'm the counselor here. I'm the counselor, so
I'm just saying the definitive distinction. I've never counseled somebody for Santa Claus trauma. I have counseled somebody for getting locked in a room. So I will say that's
not
that's
just one time getting locked in the room.
I'm just saying.
It
has happened.
Have
never
you
have I ever talked to.
I've never had anyone for being locked in a room one time.
I'll have to ask him. I didn't ask how many times. Was it 20 times? 20 times? Oh, sorry, that doesn't count. My friend has done it 20 times. It's fine. You're fine.
Well, so again, because what about me? My sisters said this in one of the first podcasts. Would lock me in.
It was
and
traumatizing.
Don't worry, Katie, Colleen, if you were watching this, there's no trauma there's no lingering trauma from any of that.
There is
no. What?
Kyle's repeating. This is the aspect of generational sin.
I have a great relationship with my sisters, actually. So
I'm just saying. So that's an important part. Just because something could be traumatizing doesn't mean it's going to be traumatizing.
Well, that's my point.
Which is the reason why Santa Claus I'm bringing up the severity is rarely traumatizing.
The potential, for trauma.
Yes, it just has a high proclivity for traumatizing, locking children in rooms. So that's the reason why I usually tell people just probably don't. Concept of Santa Claus is very rare that people become.
Well,
all right,
or so turn down the gain on your microphone.
About everything.
I'm just going to keep talking every time.
You need to know. We've gotten everything.
Yeah, we talked about all the truths you could ever want.
Everything. So now you can go and live a truthful life, or at least don't lie.
Okay, Jordan Peterson.
TM.
Gonna go ahead and TM that right now.
All right. Well, I think we're good. Right. I think we've talked about it all, and decide for yourselves.
That's okay.
About Santa Claus. You do what you want,
and maybe you burn in hell or something. I don't know. It's a bit harsh. I get it.
We will know that
Dark
Kyle
humor,
never lets
bringing it up again. That'll be a topic for another time.
I can't. Oh, we're not doing that. You quit putting these in. You keep plugging these things in at the very end. We're going to have 1 million of them.
Yeah, we're going to have dark humor eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
All right. We're out. Have a great life in truth.
Sure.
Peace.